Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and we're taking a look at Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1, Episode number 5. Yes, we have hit the halfway point. This season only has 10 episodes, so number 5 is just got complete, so 50% we're already there. Shame because we've got really good 5 episodes, or 5 really good episodes, sorry. And although I should say that this was my least favorite of the 5, I know some people's preferences vary, and therefore some people may like this one a little bit more than previous episodes. But for me, this is actually my least favorite. It's the least strong, and I'll tell you the reasons why. So we start off with Spock having doubting his abilities, and and rightly so. This is actually the younger Spock. He is not the Spock that we know in TOS and in the movies later on. He is a little bit more inexperienced. He basically has a nightmare kind of situation where his Vulcan half and his human half they split, and they're having a battle very similar to the one that you see in Amok Time. And referencing that is you're going to get a really good episode. At the same time, once he comes back, he is having trouble adjusting to this fact. He's with T'Pring, because the rest of the basically the ship is on shore leave, so everybody except for a couple of people who need to do a few things on the ship have gone for shore leave. So we basically going to split this into a few things. You have T'Pring and Spock having a little bit of a lover stiff, because Spock is asked to join the discussion between or the negotiations rather between alien race and the Federation. He needs to represent the Federation and convince those alien race to actually join. So he gets late for dinner, and T'Pring is a little upset. So in order to show her how much she means to him, he proposes this thing called a Caliphie. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not really sure if that is the right word, but basically what he wants to do is show her, for them to really get to know each other even more, to understand how the other is, what the other is going through. It's kind of like a mind meld, but basically you're putting yourself into the other person's shoes or mind, so to say. But unfortunately, things go wrong, and they end up basically switching Katras. If you know about Star Trek and you know about Vulcan culture, you'll definitely know what is Katras. So they basically body swap. The comedy from this episode is mainly because of the fact that T'Pring in Spock's body is now got to go and continue on the negotiations, and Spock in T'Pring's body needs to go and meet a Vulcan who is actually separated from the Vulcan collective, or the Vulcan way of life. He is an emotional Vulcan, and he's kind of like let go of the Vulcan way of repressing their emotions. And so while Pike and Spock are taking turns being part of the negotiations, Uhura, she's got a very small role at this time. She's basically there as like a translator, or looking into the language part of things. So that is basically the main plot, and of course they have to overcome those difficulties and get their jobs done. Pike is the only one who, other than them, who gets to know what happens. You have Christine Chapel dumping her sort of boyfriend on the ship, and because he's asking for a little bit more, so she's got intimacy issues. Like it's a big cliche of shows, not just guys but a lot of girls these days, especially nowadays. It's mainly women who've got intimacy issues, commitment issues rather, not intimacy issues, more commitment issues. So she goes and sits with her friend Spock, and he tells her about what he's the mix-up that he's done, and she's there to help him. So towards the end of the episode, you get to see the fact that Nurse Chapel is getting those kind of affectionate feelings for Spock. Even though nothing is said, You do get the feeling with the way that she longingly looks at him. Um, so that is the main part, and the comedy is mainly from there, as well as uh, the so with everybody going on show leave, Una, number one, she and well, Lan Nguyen Singh, they are staying back, and Una comes to find out that she's got a nickname among the crew as to where fun goes to die. So this is really, puts her off. She knows that she's got to be away from. I mean, she can't really mingle with the crew anymore because she is the first officer. And I only learned in this, I guess, that she is lieutenant commander. I thought somehow it kind of missed my mind. Maybe I didn't pay attention. I thought she would be a commander, full-blown commander. So she and Lan basically try to. There's like a more like focusing on their friendship kind of thing, and this is where the episode kind of falters because the acting is terrible over here. So they managed to capture these two young officers, two ensigns who are supposed to be on shore leave, but they are completing one of the check marks on a game called as the Enterprise Bingo, where you have to do certain tasks on the ship without the senior officers coming to know. And one of the officers is the cutie in the show, which is basically, I mean, she's a really sweet. I mean, when I say cute, I don't mean like, well, she's pretty, but she's cute. She's almost childish in this episode. By the way, her name is in the show is Ensign Christina, and her actress name is Jennifer Huey. I think she's a Canadian actress. Not much. I couldn't find out many details from online, so that's basically all I got to know. Her name is Jennifer Huey. She's a recurring character. And then we have the other character who is a Bolian, and the Lan and Una decide to do play good cop, bad cop. That was the part that I did not like because it just sounded so bad, cringy when they're going to do the interrogation, and Lan says bad cop, and the way she says it, like shouting loudly. And then Una now has to do the good cop kind, and then even though like more motherly kind of treatment towards the Bolian, while Lan basically close to her regular behavior, she grills Ensign Christina, who starts to weep almost, and they tell them what happens. The punishment for the two of them is to be assigned to Lieutenant Kyle, who gives them and they have to do some scrubbing of the plasma conduits or similar. Of course, Lan and Una decided they are going to do the Enterprise Bingo, and they do these steps, including shooting at each other at stun, checking to see if you chew bubblegum, and if once the flavor gets over, you beam them into into the transporter, then beam it back. The flavor does come back, things like that, which is kind of funny to be honest, but it's the acting that actually put me off, especially for Lan. And I'm actually wondering why the doctor's actually there. He's kind of like, and even Hemmer, to be honest, even though I really liked Hemmer initially, Hemmer's not in this episode at all. He's barely. He was not there in in episode 1. He was just there at the ending, showing him beaming in, and he's not in this episode either. So it's basically just 8 episodes that he's going to be in actually. And the doctor is absolutely useless, so they actually play around with the medical transporter. The one scene that I did really like about this basic thing is Lan and Una go on walk on the hull of the spaceship of the Enterprise, basically with the force field, with the shield, and so they don't have to use any suits. But then I was wondering about the atmosphere. I mean, does that actually capture in oxygen as well? They go there and they sign the last or the oldest remaining block on the hull, which basically has been hit by weaponry. They've had a refit, but this particular portion wasn't damaged badly. So since it isn't damaged enough for them to actually refit it, to remove it and replace it, they didn't. So they go and sign on it. There's already a lot of signatures on it, and well, on the other side, you have Spock with the is the I wish I could remember the name of the alien race. Uh, Hold on a second. Let me see if I can actually get it. Oh yeah, the rather prickly alien race, but you actually kind of find out that they're a very empathetic race of aliens. They're known as the Rongovians, and they basically control a key area of territory which is between the Klingon and the Romulan empires. So between these two, at the time, Klingons of course are an enemy race, and definitely the Romulans as well. So if these if this race is brought to the Federation, definitely Starfleet and Federation ships can actually go through it safely without having to worry too much about the Klingons or the Romulans. So yeah, that was actually pretty good. Christopher Pike is pretty good. Spike. Spock is pretty good. Ethan Peck. I think Ethan Peck for me was the best of this particular episode. T'Pring, played by Gia Sandhu, who is a Indo-Canadian actress. She's also awesome in this episode. Everybody does a bang-up job with the exception of, I would say, sorry to say this, but Una and as well as Lan and the Doctor and Benga. He's probably my absolutely useless character in terms of it. It could all change in the future, I know that, but yeah. So the comedy aside, the show is actually the episode is actually pretty good, even if it didn't have the comedy. But the comedic elements, for me, part of it did fall flat on its face. I wasn't really blown away by it, so I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. That's basically it. And well, that's all I want to say about this episode. I think a lot of people did love this episode quite a bit because it's quite jovial, less serious. I, on the other hand, thought some of the acting was a little bad. Anyway, that's my take on it. 7.5 out of 10, not too bad at all. So I'll see you again on another review coming up pretty soon. Bye-bye.